All right. So,
Yeah, go ahead.
Vayan, is it recording? Should I start?
Yeah, yeah, start. No issue.
All right, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So, good afternoon, sir. I'm Mohak Kapoor. I am Ariman's colleague. I'll be taking the interview today.
yeah, sure. Welcome.
So, sir, can I have your name,
Uh, Anand Arya, I think that you
your
know already.
your age,
78.
and your occupation?
Well, really, no occupation at all, very frankly speaking. Retired.
Uh,
So,
all right, sir. So let's get into the question. So, how long have you been a director and a boarder?
well, I spent at a director's level in the corporate world for about 20 years,
Yes, sir.
and then took premature retirement in 2002. And of course, birding had been a very serious hobby most of the time, and it became a kind of a passion post retirement. And 2002 onwards, till almost the lockdown actually shut down my birding, everything was going okay, and it was pretty good. So
So for
that is
around
it.
2 years.
Although I started birding way back in 1976,
All
77,
right.
in a way. Yeah.
Sure. So, sir, you filed a report for the Dhanori wetlands with the NGT. So, can you elaborate a bit more on that?
Well, Dhanori is probably one of the best wetlands from a bird watching point of view and
Yes, sir.
from a scenic point of view. Uh, then it is a natural wetland, very vibrant, with a tremendous amount of birding life there and other biodiversity. There are lots of other animal species or as well.
Yes, sir.
But my main concern had been, of course, I mean, if I see a nice animal there, and there are some shots which I have taken, but essentially, I spent my time doing the birding, recording, taking photographs, taking videos. And the specialty of this uh, this wetland is essentially that we have over 200 species of birds, which I have personally seen, and also a majority of them recorded on camera. Besides this, it is a roosting area
Yes, sir.
for saracen, which is the state bird of Uttar
Yeah.
Pradesh.
Yes, sir.
Now, normally, uh, and we can see almost up to 150 saras cranes during the month of March and April and May. Before the, at that time, more or less, the where most wetlands, the smaller ones, they've dried up. And even the Nori will, as a natural, I mean, it's a natural wetland and they do dry up now and then. But it still has adequate amount of water for the wetlands to actually, for the Saras cranes to actually, roost there. And they need a certain amount of water all around or a marshy area. And that is primarily because they need to be safe and secure. Uh, because when they hear any poacher coming in or any predator coming in the water, there is a certain amount of noise. And birds have a very acute and very good and very intensive sense of movement and sound. So, from that point of view, I think Danori has the unique distinction of having a roosting flock of Sarasquains to the extent of 150. which is not found anywhere in the country at all.
Hmm.
I mean, my research had shown at some point of time that more than 150 were recorded somewhere in near Itawa, but I think that is in 70s or 60s story, 70s or 80s story. And at that time, the population was about 15,000, which is now whittled down to less than 8,000. So that is a very, very critical thing. And from that point of view, for this area to be made as a Sara sanctuary or a conservation reserve, this is extremely important. The other thing is that not all wetlands, I mean, where you see water birds and all, meet the criteria of what is known as a Ramsar Convention, as a Ramsar wetlands of international importance. Now, this wetland has criteria number one, which is supposed to have more than 20,000 waterfall in a year, which it does. And the second criteria for this to be qualified as a Ramsar wetland of international importance is for any one particular species of water birds to have more than 1% of geospecific geographical area of the species found in that geographical area. Now, in the whole of UP, or rather, I would say in India, uh, with the population being less than 8,000 for Saras and 150 Saras, which have been recorded at Danori several times, it does qualify, that 1% criteria. And the third criteria is essentially that there should be endangered and there will be, threatened, seriously threatened species. The classification, which has been determined by International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN, which is followed worldwide by every institution. So, from that point of view, this is very, very important wetland. Now, we found it in 2014, and having lost a couple of other wetlands like Dadri wetlands and Okhla Bird Sanctuary being almost destroyed,
Hmm. Hmm.
uh, I mean, I decided that I'm going to save this
Yes.
wetland. And when we started looking around, how to go about it, we found that the country is very rich in wetlands. We have 757,000 wetlands which have been recorded and inventorized by ISRO for the Ministry of Environment and Forest way back in 2009 and 11. And they have a very specific number of inventory where in terms of the area, location, the type, etc. Uh, for uh, uh, this wetland, which is 96.97 hectares. As per, this is part of, actually, it was one wetland. And when a small road was, brick-laid road was made way back, I think about 25 years ago, for the villagers of the one side of the other to go to the other. Now that is now, so there are two wetlands, both are measuring 97.97. And in terms of the definition required by, for protection purposes, for notification purposes, the zone of influence of any wetland is to be included. And that makes it about 100 and ideally it should be about 140, 45 hectares. But Yamuna Authority, which is the landowning agency in that area,
Yes, sir.
they have identified and agreed to declare it to about 113 hectares. So from that point of view, my fight had started to, for protection of all wetlands, and which extended on a state level first and then on a national level, where I wanted all the wetlands to be notified as per the law. Because if there is a legal and statutory duty and enjoined on the Ministry of Environment and Forest and other governments, it must be done. And let us see, wetlands is an extremely important and probably the richest ecosystem of any other ecosystem.
Yes. Yeah.
It has a tremendous amount of value. You see, it has a tremendous amount of value on various counts. In today's environment, when it is a serious pollution is a major issue. You see, these wetlands actually are act like carbon sink. So they help you control the pollution in the air. Number one. Number two, they act as the flood control measure. And the third is the most critical thing, and that is the groundwater recharge. Now, if we see in the context of the water security for India, I would say that forest and wetlands are the two most important factors on which the government should really concentrate on protecting these and increasing the area of these. Uh, because 1 hectare of wetland recharges uh, 30 lakh liters of water, 3,000 cubic meter of water. And I am saying this based on the empirical data of water absorption at various types of wetlands. And assuming that in India, on an average, we have 30 inches of rain or 75 centimeters of rain, and we absorb only 40% of it over a period of time, depending upon the kind of rainfall that you have had. If it is a steady, it is a lot more. If it is not so, there is a lot of runoff water. Now, with more than 1,50,000 1.15 crore hectares of area under wetland in the country, even if you put a value of 10 paise, 15 paise per liter, 1 hectare will give you water worth 4.5 lakhs. When you take it and extrapolate it over 1.5 crore hectares, it is the annual value of water recharge is 67 lakh crores. It's probably the most important single uh, natural resource that we have, and it's free of cost.
Yes.
And there is nothing to be done except ensuring that it is properly protected by, uh, as prescribed in the statutes and the law. This case, I mean, I had taken up this back in 2015 to National Green Tribunal, and then National Green Tribunal at that time had given for the Nori wetlands a particular direction of maintaining a status quo. Then in 2017, there had been a very old case of talking about Ramsar sites and things like that. And I intervened in that case in 2017. And after we presented the data which was available across the country and the pathetic condition of protection, no, unfortunately, which the government had not granted by that time, even though it was, the Ramsar Convention was signed in 1960s. It was signed in 1960s. Then Environment Protection Act was, implemented in 1972, and then the wetland rules were satisfied in Yeah, shall we continue?
Yes, sir. I was plugging my charger. We can continue. Just a minute, yeah, sir. Yeah. Sorry, sir.
Yeah.
We can continue. Yeah.
So, the Supreme Court granted protection in 2000, February 2017, and unfortunately, as of date, uh, only two wetlands have been notified. One is Ramgarh Tal in Gorakhpur, and the other is Sukna Lake in Chandigarh. Other than that, unfortunately, uh, the government of India and the state wetland authorities have done nothing absolutely, although they keep saying we have done this, we have done that, we are doing this, we are doing that, but nothing on ground. You see, a protection means that there has to be a notification, you see, which delineates the boundaries of the wetland and the people get to know about it. And then uh, the government has to ensure that X number of activities which are permitted happen, and the rest of the activities which are not permitted do not happen. So we do have that, and then we had a lot more hope for Denori when the Jewar airport was announced into 2019 2020. And then the conservation plan was made for uh, as a part of the environment clearance conditions for Jewar Airport to be permitted to be constructed. Now, one very specific construction the condition there is that uh, there would be a conservation plan for the Nori wetlands for completing and for making sure that we either have a sanctuary there, it's a bird sanctuary or it's a sanctuary, or this is called as a conservation reserve. Now, I have done, I don't think anyone can do more than what I have done between
Sure, sir. Yeah.
2014 and 2023. I have provided all the data for the concerned officers to do the work. In fact, I've drafted a lot of things for them. And now we do have a proposal which was submitted to the State Wetland Authority in 2022, early 2022, and nothing has happened since then. So at this stage, I think, I mean, for protection as a matter of last resort, I have filed a case with the National Green Tribunal that either the airport construction must be stopped because the specific condition which is laid down there is that the Nori wetlands will be made as a sanctuary or a conservation reserve. Now, this recommendation has been accepted by the project properties. That includes the uh, government of Uttar Pradesh and the Yamuna Expressway Industrial Development Authority.
Yes, sir.
And if they don't, then I think the law of the land says that the project must stop. So we have prayed to the National Green Tribunal that this area be declared both as a Ramsar kind of international important as well as a SAR sanctuary. Now they have issued notice, and hopefully by the end of this month, probably on the 20th of November, when the next date of hearing is listed, we should be able to get uh, a stay or very specific directions that within a certain X number of weeks or X number of months or by a particular date, the conservation reserve must be notified or a sanctuary must be notified. The
Yes.
rest of the issues will take on. Okay, it's a continuous process. So my regret is that despite making life easy for all the bureaucrats, there had been a tremendous amount of dereliction of duty on their part. And
Yes.
that is compounded because there are directions. So that is serious because first, this is their legal and statutory duty to notify all the wetlands in the country, and whatever qualifies as a Ramsar sanctuary, that should be done, and whatever is Ramsar a wetland of international importance, they must do that if it meets the criteria. And the third, that they must declare any area that is, and now that they are making an airport in that area which will adversely affect, and therefore that conservation plan, whatever has been made and has been accepted by the authorities concerned, then it must be implemented. Otherwise, uh, if the still, if the in spite of the fact that it's their legal and statutory duty, there are specific judicial guidelines, directions on record, and if the bureaucrats do not comply with this, I cannot use any other word than dereliction of duty. So I think, in short, this is the story. And as far as my contribution is concerned, it's very simple. I have made sure over a period of from 2014 onwards that there are no encroachments on this, or any attempts at encroachments are thwarted. I have brought them to the notice of the concerned authority, and I have insisted that they take action. So it is still in that condition, but unfortunately, with there being no MyBAP, a certain amount of negligence is there, which we can see, and that needs to be corrected. And that can happen once it is notified as a sanctuary, or as a conservation reserve, or as a Ramsar wetland of international importance. And I have, met practically every concerned official, including the top bureaucrat responsible for environment, that is the Secretary MOEF. It's a serious pity, and it's a regret on my part, that once the such a senior bureaucrat has seen the amount of effort and the push that has been done for declaring Dhanori as a wetland, as a Ramsar site, as a sanctuary over the last 9 years, and she has not found time to actually see that it is done. Every time I ask them, I call them, I send an email, they'll send another email to the UP government. Please do this, please do this, please do this. So hopefully, we are pinning a lot of hope on NGT. And if NGT, uh, I am very confident that NGT will recognize the fact that there is a specific condition for construction of Jaipur Airport. If that is not complied with, then they will be left with no other alternative but to order the stay of construction. And if they don't do it, then I'm sorry, I will make the absolute last step and go to the Supreme Court for a stay.
Yes, sir. We have our hopes with your hearing on the 20th, and we
Yeah,
surely want that to proceed. So the next question, we visited to Thasrana.
yeah,
2 to 3 weeks back, we went to Thasrana, which is one of the four villages of
yeah.
Dhanori. So the Sarpanch there, Mr. Jabbar Singh, he informed us about your history with the village, the gram, which is with the wetland. So can you elaborate that more on that?
You see, we have, you know, no conservation effort can proceed without the involvement of the local people.
Yes, sir.
So, at every point of time, we have been trying to teach them the importance of wetland. And whenever we will go, and you can imagine that I must have visited Dhanori wetland since 2014 on more than 500 occasions, on 500 days. So practically every villager who is passing by will stop by, talk to us. We will explain to them the importance of wetland. We will explain to them the birds. We use our equipment like binoculars, spotting scopes, etc., to train the children there that okay, this is how you see the birds and how beautiful the birds are, and they come all the way from this thing, and they are extremely important from an ecosystem, for ecology of this. So, so that is the important thing. So we've done that. I think the villagers also wanted this to, because it's as far as they are concerned, they are not able to utilize it for any agricultural purposes. So they'll be happy to get the compensation and
Yes, sir. Yeah.
let it be declared. And actually, what is due for a wetland? And you see, so this is what we have tried to explain to them, that the water which they get from the hand pumps in their area, and which is potable straight off as you draw it, is because the wetland is actually acting as a natural filtration system. Uh, you see, the way the filtration is in place by a wetland, it also includes, they can even remove the heavy metals. So the
Yes.
villages understand that, and hopefully, I think once the time comes, they'll be happy to see this as a tourist attraction. Because once you see, as it is, I mean, I have hosted, I don't know how many number of people who come from abroad and want to see the Nori wetlands. They want to see the saras. And I had been fortunate enough to practically see the whole life cycle of a sarai, from the time of that they start making the nest, they lay the egg, the way the chicks are hatched, and the whole life cycle, and how they fledge, how they go, how they eat. So that had been a tremendous experience watching them. So that's it, I think, and we should be able to, let's see, we keeping our fingers crossed with that.
Yes.
And also,
Yeah.
personally, I feel that India, compared to many other countries, really doesn't have to worry about the water security in this country. And the government's programs like Har Ghar Jal, Pipe Nal Se Jal, I mean, these are good initiatives and should be done. And it is not possible if they do not protect the wetlands. Because
Yes.
35, 30 to 40 inches of rain in this country, if we are at the moment using less than 20% of this. If by making a proper canal system, which is not lined with cement and all, which helps percolate the water down, then there is, to my mind, I don't think that we have any threat of water scarcity in this country.
Yes.
You can imagine, from all the way from Kashmir, Baltistan to Sri Lanka, you can imagine the rain is how much? It's a 1 kilometer wide, 1 kilometer depth, and the length is over 3,000 kilometers. That is the amount of water we are talking about. All that we need to do is to conserve. If we do not conserve, then everything is lost, and therefore, my message is essentially protect, conserve, and use. Otherwise, everything is lost.
Yes. Sir, in your documentary, I watched your documentary regarding the Nori wetlands, and you mentioned about 216 species of birds which are classified under three categories. So vulnerable, then threatened and endangered.
Yeah,
With
there are.
the yeah, the
Uh,
Saras crane coming under the vulnerable category. So can you explain the three categories?
you see, it's a criteria or based on a number of factors like
Yes.
declining population, declining habitat, and the causes thereof. And that is where the IUCN does this work on a regular basis. Every species is monitored, and then they decide what label to give it to.
Yes.
Now, Saras crane is vulnerable because from 20,000 over about 15 years ago, we have dwindled down to less than 8,000. And unfortunately, to the best of my knowledge, unfortunately, there is no proper census done as of now. So I would say it may even be less than.
8,000. Yeah.
So I think, I mean, the classification is very clear. You see, like number of species have lost. Like almost we lost the vultures in this country, particularly Egyptian vulture, which was the most common. Now, once the conservation program started uh, at various places in two, three places in India, we have the SARS, and there on the Nori wetland, you can literally every visit you can see Egyptian vultures. And Saras cranes are, of course, I mean, breeding there. Everywhere, every year we have seen from 10 to 15 nests. So, which means, I mean, that on an average, even if you take one and a half chick coming out of 15 nests, so we are talking about 20-25% of the population increasing every year. And minus, of course, the attrition rate or the mortality rate. So it's a damn good area, but unfortunately, the government had been derelict. Bureaucrats had been derelict. That's the only word I can use for these people. That's it. So,
Yeah. Thanks
anything
a
else?
lot, sir. That was
Welcome.
all from my side,
Okay.
and it was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank
And
you. Let me know when you've done this.
yeah, sure, sir. We'll share it with you
Okay. Thank you.
definitely. Thanks a
Okay.
lot, sir.